Looking for new spring outfits or decor? Shop St. Vinny's for quality clothing, furniture, and home goods. Thrifting's cheaper than shopping at big box stores or online, and April is Earth Month, so shopping at Vinny's is a great way to protect the planet. Plus, support local. All dollars spent at St. Vinny's stay in Dane County. Proceeds go to local food pantries, pharmacies, microloans, housing support, and more. Follow at Vinny's Dane County on Facebook and Instagram to be notified when special events are coming up or to see the latest finds in store. This is CityCast Madison. I'm Bianca Martin, and here's what Madison's talking about. Today, major changes are in the works at the Alliant Energy Center. Could a massive renovation make Madison a can't-miss destination for major touring acts? That's the goal. And with me today to talk about how we're going to get there is Alliant Energy Center Director Kevin Scheibler. Kevin, welcome to CityCast Madison.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so y'all have some major news to share. The county and Alliant Energy Center are partnering with FBC Live to renovate the Veterans Memorial Coliseum. I suppose the news is out, but it's a big deal. I had a conversation with the city arts leader here on the show back in January when the bid was first announced. But now there's some more tangible ideas about what this renovation could look like. So can you talk a bit about what this project will entail?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. We're excited about it too. And we're still in negotiation with Frank Productions, FPC Live, so it's not a done deal yet. We've got a little bit more work to do, but really we've been, as a community, talking about what to do with the Coliseum for the last 10 years, right? And we came up with this solution to bring a private partner in to help finance the investment that is needed in the Coliseum to get it back up and doing the types of events we were doing in the 80s and 90s, and really. The goal is to upgrade the interior of the Coliseum to match the needs of what the touring community needs, but also what the guest experience of the ticket buyers, what their expectations are for a venue. And so we're really excited with what Frank Productions has proposed. We're hopeful that we can get this proposal to a contract and really then help convert the Coliseum into a major destination and start having some major concerts rolling through there in the next year or two.
Yeah, I would love for you to talk a little bit about the energy of the heyday in the 1990s, because I've heard a few folks talking about, I remember this place being so alive and there were so many music concerts and having core memories there, and things haven't stayed the same. Can you just take us back to that time for a moment and talk about what Alliant was like at its peak?
Yeah, I had the good fortune of being able to work here from 1990 to 1994. I was a young person at that time. It was one of my first jobs. And we hosted everybody. Everybody that was hot at that time came through there. So in my time there, Metallica played there, AC/DC played there, the Moody Blues, Bon Jovi, Reba McEntire, Brooks and Dunn, Clint Black. I mean, every artist that was of any significance that was touring from 90 to 94 when I was here stopped in Madison. And the big difference back in the early 90s and 80s and even into the mid 90s was every community didn't have their own arena, right? And so there weren't as many options. And so we got a lot of things because there just wasn't the competition out there to go out and take it. There was, in Madison alone, we were the only game in town. The Kohl Center didn't exist at that point either. So people saw the value of live entertainment, not just as a quality of life addition to the community, but also as an economic driver. And so you saw all these arenas popping up around the country, and that kind of made it a little bit more challenging to get some of those artists. So in order to get those back, we need to make sure the venue is attractive to the artist. And that's why we really focused in on this relationship. And we think it's going to really benefit. In Madison, we'll start seeing all those great concerts again.
Yeah, and when you hear those kinds of artist names, the comparable artists coming through Madison in recent years, I'm thinking about the folks who have gone to play at Camp Randall, Coldplay, these big acts. And it sounds like now we're kind of missing out on that opportunity. For folks who don't have a big familiarity with the Coliseum. Could you just share a bit about like the space and what it's like inside and what its capacity is?
Yeah, it's a 10,000 seat arena. And so in that scale, that's, mid-size. A mid-size arena in our industry is about 7,000 to 12,000 seats. So we're mid-size, and that becomes a challenge because there aren't a lot of mid-size artists that can fit 10,000 seats, right? And so part of Frank Productions' proposal is to actually reduce the capacity from 10,000 to a max of 6,800, which in essence then allows us to market the building to a wider array of artists, right? The smaller the capacity, the more artists there are to fill that, right? And it just makes sense. So reducing the capacity really helps us. And as we did our analysis, we realized that even though we have 10,000 seats, the average number of tickets made available for sale over the last 10 years was only about 6,500. So even though we had 10,000 seats, we were only putting out for sale about 6,500. So we were only selling about 4,500 of those 6,500 tickets. So this capacity is critical. And the other thing it does is it really reimagines the interior of the Coliseum. So right now it's a circular shape. So all the seats are your sight line is to the center of the arena. Under this new configuration, it will have more of a theater feel to it. So if you can imagine that, all the seats will be facing the stage as opposed to facing the center of the building. So that we think will certainly help with acoustics, but also help with sightlines. And then that, of course, helps with fan experience.
And I want to get even further into the Coliseum particulars. But for folks who don't know, first, Alliant Energy Center is a really big campus. You have multiple buildings and host over 300 events a year. So folks might have gone to the Alliant Energy Center and been at the Veterans Coliseum, or they might have been in the expo hall. Can you share a sense of the broader campus, what you all have there? Because ultimately, y'all are really trying to revitalize the whole place.
Yeah, the campus itself is huge. It's 164 acres. We have 5,000 parking stalls out here, right? So we have more parking stalls than some of the communities in Dane County have people. So just to kind of give you a sense of our breadth, we have 5 buildings, Coliseum being kind of the center of the campus, but we have the exhibition hall, which is a 100,000 square foot space that we do everything from fishing expos to wedding shows, banquets, meetings. We're doing testing in there next month. And that really is probably our most active space. But we also have 2 livestock buildings we call the New Holland Pavilion 1, New Holland Pavilion 2. That's where when we have the World Dairy Expo and the Midwest Horse Fair and all the cattle shows, that's where all the animals are housed during their time here. We can actually host over 1,600 horses and over 2,000 cows in those 2 buildings. So that's a significant amount of livestock that come through here. And then we have the oldest building on campus is the arena building. Was built in the 50s as a ice skating rink, and now we primarily use it for roller derby. And so we do, almost 700,000 people came out to campus last year. And what we're really trying to do is make this a destination. So we want the Alliant Energy Center to be a place where people come even when there isn't an event going on. And so the Coliseum is kind of the key to that, to drive density, but then we want to take some of the space and redevelop it into restaurants and other entertainment places, like you might see those cosmic bowling alleys or the axe throwing places, or maybe a little comedy club. And then probably we'll have some mixed use or some housing out here as well, so people could potentially live out here. And really trying to activate the campus as a 365-day-a-year destination, and then maybe it becomes its own little neighborhood within Madison.
It's really exciting to hear about. And as you said, the Coliseum's kind of at the center. You shared a bit about changes around capacity, just the way that the space is structured for viewing experiences. Can you talk about, are there any other renovations that are needed? Just that it's an old building that needs to get up to standard. Yeah. Yeah,
the whole interior. When I was talking to the county board, I reiterated my first experience with the Coliseum. Is when I came in for an interview and I saw the outside and I was like, oh my God, look at this place. It's huge. And I was getting like really excited about having the chance to work there. And then when I went to the interview, when I went inside and I saw how wonderful it looked on the inside, and this was 1990, and all the events that have gone on in there. Fast forward 30 years, and you look at it, it's like, well, nothing's really changed. And so it's still circa 1990 on the inside, and the touring folks and the guests, they expect a different experience when they go into these places now, because there are other venues that offer a better experience. So we really need to address the back of house. So that's where the dressing rooms are, the catering rooms, all the support areas for the tours when they come in. Those areas all need to be upgraded significantly. What we call the rigging, which is what hangs the sound and lights, right? So all these tours, when they come in, they bring all the stuff, their own sound equipment, their own lighting equipment. We really lack the infrastructure to hang what today's artists need. And so part of this improvement includes addressing those issues. But then the big part is the fan experience. And so as a fan come in and you buy a ticket, you want to be able to get something to eat or drink that's not just cotton candy or popcorn or a beer. And you want to be able to get it quickly, get in and get out and get back to enjoying the event. And same with the restrooms and everything else. So the whole fan experience has to be significantly upgraded, because nothing's really been done in those areas since the building was opened in 1967. And then just the ability to get around the building, right? So there's a lot of steps, there's a lot of stairs, there's not a lot of opportunities for people with mobility issues to get around. It's currently 10,000 people capacity, one elevator, no escalators. So the new place will have more elevators, more escalators, and really be open to everybody in the community.
Wow, I can only imagine what it would feel like for you to have the experience that you have being there 35 years ago when that was spanking, it wasn't spanking new, but it felt like this was the place. And now to come back and be like, this deserves that energy and that verve and to be current and it would be a competitive space. So appreciate you giving the insights about what you guys are thinking around changes. I know that the plans are still underway, but things are moving fast. The Cap Times recently reported the early renderings of the project include changes that would mean the space could no longer accommodate some legacy events, though, like the Monster Truck Show, and you mentioned the Midwest Horse Fair, or certain sporting events. What's going on there, and what might losing those mean?
Yeah, so some of the events, they will still be able to do there. They just may have to modify how they use the space. So Midwest Horse Fair, for instance, we were in conversations with them about how they currently use the Coliseum and how could they use the renovated Coliseum. And so we obviously want to make sure that an event like that stays, because it's not only is it good for the Coliseum, but it's good for the entire campus and it's good for the whole community. I mean, the economic impact of the Midwest Horse Fair, I believe last time I checked, it was like $10 million.
Oh, yeah, that surprised me. I was like, that can't be going. We need to ask what that means.
Yeah. So they understand. They're a great group of people to work with. They appreciate the fact that we need to address the Coliseum so that it is functional 365 days a year, not just the 3 days that they're using it. And so they understand the situation, and they're working with us. But there are some events that just physically won't work in there, right? The Monster Truck Show is one event that, for a couple of reasons. One, the floor size will be reduced, and so they just won't have the ability to produce the show that they have typically done. The other part of shows like the monster trucks or the autocross, where there's carbon monoxide being generated from the engines that run in there, the Coliseum's roof is designed, it doesn't allow us to put what in other arenas will have like air vents. So you would have like fans on the top that would suck all that stuff out, all that bad air out. We don't have that. And so it makes it a challenge to have good air quality in that building. We ran into it last year. We had a demolition derby in there, and we had to continually stop the event because the air quality got to a point where it was unsafe, and we just lacked the infrastructure to be able to do that. So It's unfortunate that some of those events we may not be able to host, we likely won't be able to host, but we look at what we will be able to do and how we will be able to do more of the things that people really want to come out and see.
And so things like Dairy Expo and the county fair, they're sticking around.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We can accommodate all that. Hopefully this renovation may make the fair rethink. They don't currently use the Coliseum, but this renovation may allow them to look at that and say, hey, maybe we do want to do some entertainment in there.
Explore the wonders of science! Y'all, it's time for UW-Madison's Science Expeditions, the yearly UW campus-wide science open house. Yup, you heard that right. UW is opening its doors to their science labs and research centers to you and your family for free. From April 10th through the 12th, you can adventure around your top-tier public land-grant research university. You can talk with world-class researchers, enjoy science demos, and get hands-on at interactive exploration stations. The variety of programming is amazing. You can learn anything from what the inside of the human lung looks like to the science behind ice cream. You can even meet marmoset monkeys at the Primate Center. Again, UW-Madison's Science Expeditions events are free and open to all. So, see you at the open house? Find the full schedule at go.wisc.edu/science expeditions. So in that story from the Cap Times, some of the Dane County board members were expressing concerns or confusion about their roles in this negotiation, saying that Alliant Energy Center executives aren't giving that many details to the public. Do you think that's the case? And big picture in a public-private partnership like this, how much does the county really have a say, and the people who live here, on what happens with this?
Yeah, I would say that we have been extremely transparent in this whole process, not only in what we planned on doing with the Coliseum. We had last May, we had a listening session or kind of a community meeting where we talked about what our options were well before we even released the RFP. So that was in April, May last year. We released the RFP in September. When we got the one response back, as soon as the evaluation committee reviewed it and recommended that the county move to the next phase, which negotiate with the respondent, we released the entire thing except the renderings at that point. So I think we've been extremely transparent. And then in March alone, we had 3 meetings, 3 public opportunities, 2 town halls, and a listening session for people to come and express their desires, whether they liked it, whether they didn't like it, what they wanted us to consider as we negotiate. And so I think we've been very transparent. We are also trying to negotiate a deal that's in the best interest of the county, right? And so it makes it a little bit of a challenge because we want to be as transparent with the county board members. We know that they're the ones that ultimately are going to vote on this. And we want to make sure that we give them opportunity to express what they want to see in there. But we also have to be cognizant of the fact that the people we're negotiating with are listening as well. So we're giving people an opportunity to let us know what they think should be included in there. We're taking that into consideration as we negotiate. And we think that we will be able to provide to the county board an agreement that is a win-win for both parties.
And you said that this has been under discussion, some form of renovation, for the past 10 years, that there have been talks for quite some time now. And what you're sharing now is you also want to protect this potential deal, this private investment of $100 million. That's not insignificant. So having been in the mindset, this needs to happen, working on this for a decade, is this the best deal? I mean, it was the only one that came along, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it's certainly, we feel it's a strong deal, right? Because the county's got a couple different things we look at with this. One is, if we didn't have this potential partner that came along, responded to the RFP, then the county would be on the hook for everything in there, right? So currently, it loses money on an annual basis. Last year, we lost about $150,000 just operating it. In the past, it's been around $250,000, $300,000 a year that we need taxpayer dollars to subsidize. And so that diverts those monies from other worthwhile entities in the county. The other part of it is, as we talked about at the beginning, it needs a significant amount of investment in it just to keep it going, right? I mean, there's $35 million of deferred maintenance in that building. And that's just upgrading the air handlers and the mechanical stuff and, the plumbing and that kind of stuff. That doesn't even address any of the guest experience or fan experience stuff. So those are dollars that the county just doesn't have, right? I mean, everybody's aware. I would think everybody's aware at this point. The county is looking at a significant deficit. We had a $31 million deficit last year. We're looking at around that or maybe more this year. And so we just don't have the funds available to be able to invest that kind of money into that building. And so that's why it was critical for us to bring in an outside partner who did have the resources to put into it. And in their proposal, they indicated that they would invest 100% of the money into renovating the building, and then they would also pay the county rent. And so to me, that's a win-win, right? You have somebody that's going to fix your problem for you, and then they're going to pay you rent for that. So that, if we can fine tune that a little bit, that could be a real significant boon for the county.
Well, you mentioned y'all have been holding town halls, open houses for folks to come in and learn more about the renovation. You're on the show being transparent and sharing. What has the feedback there been like?
It's mostly positive, right? I mean, everybody wants to see the Coliseum, kind of like you mentioned at the beginning. You really want to see these big acts coming back through here. But at the same time, people want to make sure that we get the best possible deal for the county. And so that's what we're really working hard to do. We had a good starting point because we believe that Frank Productions put together a very strong proposal for us to consider. And, with any proposal, you understand that at that time, that's all it is. It's not a contract. And so taking that from the proposal, the contract is what we've been working on. But we really felt like we were at a really great starting point to be able to get a contract that we think will represent the value of this building to the community. And, one, allow us to renovate it in a way that will attract a lot of events and also allow the county to participate in that success financially.
Well, Frank Productions have local roots with the Lion Energy Center, which is really cool. I know you also know their parent company, Live Nation, has a lot of critics, right? Live Nation is currently being sued by over 24 states, including our own, around antitrust concerns. The Star reports that at least one community member at the open house voiced their concerns about this. How are you contending with those kinds of complaints and concerns?
Yeah. And I'll just say, so we've been working, a lot of people, I guess, maybe don't realize this because this is all kind of relatively new, but the Coliseum in Dane County has been working with Live Nation since Live Nation was, created, I think, in the early 2000s, right? Our tickets have all been sold through Ticketmaster since Ticketmaster became the ticket provider here in the 90s. And so we've had a strong relationship with them over the years. Frank Productions, as you mentioned, started in the Coliseum. They have been definitely from the concert side of it, our biggest customer for the decades, right? I think in the last 10 years, we've had about 28 concerts in there, and that includes the 2 or 3 years of COVID. Of those 28 concerts, Frank Productions, Live Nation produced 18 of them. So they have a strong track record. They've had a great presence in Madison. And our view on the lawsuit is basically that'll work itself out. And it went at the conclusion of it. Live Nation will have to decide how they move forward. But right now, our history with Live Nation and Frank Production have been strong and have been good. And we haven't had anyone really coming to us before this proposal was out saying, hey, we don't think you should host concerts from Live Nation in the Coliseum anymore, or Frank Productions. That was never raised beforehand. And so we feel like, okay, that's the way we should move forward. And if something comes up of these lawsuits that prevents Live Nation from fulfilling their obligations, then that's something that they will have to decide.
You mentioned this earlier, but y'all are trying to get the best deal for the county as well. Taxpayer money goes into supporting Alliant. a last interview on this subject, I spoke with the chair of the Madison Arts Commission, Nick Pevich, and he voiced a lot of excitement for the project, but also said just that to make sure that it benefits the community it serves. You've already shared a couple of ways, but can you share about how this investment will return value to taxpayers and what it can do to protect the public nature of the center?
Well, on several different fronts. So the first is from getting the debt obligations and the capital expenditures and the operating losses off the county's books. That's the first thing, right? That's our first goal, is to try to shore up the finances of the county by getting this off of that, off our rolls. Second is to drive density to the campus, right? So that more people out here will help us fulfill the next goal in our development, which is the mixed use, which mentioned was like the restaurants and the other entertainment places and the hotels and the housing. So an active Coliseum will allow us to generate more revenue off those pieces because they will become more valuable, right? So the more people that are coming out here, the more valuable those mixed use pieces will be. We intend to use the revenue that we generate off those mixed uses to help us with the exhibition hall expansion. And the exhibition hall, we definitely need that because our large events like the World Dairy Expo and Midwest Horse Fair and Game Hole Con are running out of space. Those events generate significant economic impact to the community because a lot of the people that come to those events are coming from out of town. So they're staying in the hotels, they're eating in the restaurants, they're renting cars, they might even be flying in for some of those events. So then that is all new money coming into Madison, which helps people, creates jobs, it creates opportunities. It helps with the county, again, not having to go to the taxpayer to fund some of this stuff. So really the key point of it is the Coliseum, right? And so we really think that will help with all those things. The other part of it is some of the things we're in conversations with Frank Productions are stuff like community benefit days for the Coliseum, where the county will be able to use the space for an event that might be of benefit for the whole community. We're having conversations with them about, making sure that tickets, they're affordable ticket prices and those kind of things. So we're looking at holistically the entire community and make sure that the entire community can benefit from what goes on there as well.
And with such a big space, I assume, in times of emergency, being able to potentially use it for like COVID testing and weather sheltering and some of those community needs too.
Yeah, absolutely. And more than that, those things are a large part of being a good neighbor, right? And that's one of the benefits of having a partner who understands Madison and knows Madison's already a part of Madison, that know that those kind of things are critical to being part of this community. And so, those are things, it's like you don't really have to put it in the contract because that's the way we all view it.
And you already have that working experience to know that, and I'm sure there are a lot of local businesses that would be excited about and are excited about the mixed use spaces and what's possible there. I mean, I'm pretty thrilled talking about it and thinking about what's possible and getting a little bit more than a spit shine, really getting some new exciting stuff happening at Alliant Energy Center, making it a destination district. You've been really wonderful, and thank you for your transparency and giving us some views. I'm sure we'll want to talk to you more as this develops. But before I let you go, I want to end on a fun question, which is, I have to ask, what is your dream Coliseum show?
One that I want to see or one that I saw?
What? Both.
Okay.
I want both.
Okay. All right. Well, I got two then for you. So the best show I've ever seen, and I've been doing this for 40 years. Best show I ever saw was in the Coliseum, was in the mid-90s, was the Moody Blues with a full orchestra. And, I may be dating myself a little bit, but we were fortunate enough to get that tour. And the visual and the music of that event, it's still, every time I hear a Moody Blues song, I can remember where they played it at that night. Just having that full orchestra behind them was just phenomenal. And it was one of those events where you have a lot of wonderful concerts, but they rely on a lot of other special effects, right? So whether it's video in the background or pyrotechnics or any other things, this was just pure music, right? And it was amazing.
Magic.
Yeah. Moving forward, I mean, my favorite band right now is Mumford and Sons. I know they're playing Madison in September, but it would be it would make it a guy who spent a lot of time in this. If that was the first show to come into a renovated Coliseum, that would just make me as happy as can be. But I don't know if that'll happen, but that would be a dream. So
I love that. And actually, somehow Mumford and Sons is the band that I've seen the most out of anyone. I've seen them at least 4 or 5 times. Yeah. But I love that. Kevin, thank you so much for taking the time. And
thank you.
We want there to be more fun and excitement and not having to drive to Chicago for certain shows. So thanks for the work that you're doing and for taking the time today.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity and love hearing that.
That's Kevin Scheibler, director at the Alliant Energy Center. That's all for today here on CityCast Madison. I'm your host, Bianca Martin. Don't forget, you can support the show and get great perks by becoming a CityCast Madison neighbor at membership.citycast.fm. And if you enjoyed today's show, why not share this episode with someone who likes to rock out? All right, y'all. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more stories from around the city. Until then, take good care and thanks for listening.